And we're live again. Stacey accidentally hit it. Hold on, let me send her the link. So yeah, this is hold on. Give us just a second. I'm adding her back to the stream. All right. So anyway, yeah, this is just more proof of how real life happens. So she's having some technical difficulties with her internet. Stacey Price, where are you? All right. So anyway, if you were on a minute ago and got kicked off, I'm very sorry, but let me know you're back here again. But yeah, what we were talking about is just trusting people with your business, trusting people with your idea, trusting people with all the things. And it can be super difficult to do that. And you have to really be able to have that accountability group. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do, even with the Spontaneity group, is turn that into an accountability group. We want it just to be somewhere where you can talk about your struggles, whether it's, personal or business related or a little bit of both, to be able to have a place to share, be able to encourage. We're going to be doing a lot more challenges. One of those is just being able to challenge each other to stay up on top of a lot of the things that we want to be doing on a regular basis to be able to make our lives a little bit easier. And one of those is keeping up with the meal prepping. So hold on here. I'm doing two things at once here, so I'm adding Stacey back on here. All right, Stacey Price, I'm sending it to your phone. So if you're watching right now, can you let us know in the comments, just say, do you have a business right now? Is it something that you're thinking about doing? Is it something that you've struggled with along the way? Yesterday on Business Acceleration Playbook, we talked about resources, as we were saying earlier, but we also talked about how sometimes it can feel really lonely when you're first starting out. And sometimes there she is. Sometimes if we're live again. I just like trying to do two things at once, and my ADD was not working it, so it's fine.
It's all good.
But anyway, I was just saying that it can be hard trusting people, and then also,
yes,
we want to trust our family, we want to trust our friends, but if they're not in the business world, if they're not entrepreneurs, it's hard for them to understand. So a lot of times, and I'm saying this because I made that mistake early on, I would get super excited about something, and I would, tell somebody in my family, and I would get a lot of pushback, actually, like, well, who's going to want you to do that? I mean, when you're already like questioning yourself, somebody says, and they mean well. And I've had
yes.
Long time later, after having several businesses at this point, I know, your family loves you and they don't want to see you crash and burn. They don't want to see you lose money. They don't want to see all the things that quote unquote could happen. So they asked you these questions from a place of caring. But when you're already questioning and doubting a lot of the things, that's a lot of times not how you take it. And I say this just to caution you, because that's the reason it's so important early on. It's I think more important early on, but very important the entire business journey, to reach out to people that are in the entrepreneurship business world, to be able to use that as your sounding board to run things by or to ask questions to, because those people have been there before and they understand where you're at mentally and financially. They understand all of those things, to where your family members, that's not their job. Their job is just to love you. And I had to get to the point where I realized that, and I gave myself the, I guess, out to not share all that stuff with my family members, because it caused resentment, it caused hurt feelings. I would get all butthurt. Well, they don't even care about anything that I care about. It wasn't that. They didn't understand it completely. So, whenever you are thinking about starting a business, or you have a baby business, it's so important to have that accountability group. And even, I was mentioning before you hop back on, and you're not frozen anymore, so yay. But that I was mentioning that, you know, in the Spontaneity group, that we really want to use that for accountability for, you know, just even personal things to keep our life in order so we have more time to work on the things we need to work on, like going ahead and meal prepping, even when we don't want to. Because I told you, I put it in the group too, but I told you that I was trying to talk myself. I was negotiating with myself hardcore on Sunday. I was like, I don't need to do it. I was like, but, you know, the angel on this side of me was like, but Maria, you told the people in the group that you were going to meal prep. And then the devil on the other side was like, yeah, but are they really going to do? Yeah. And the angel was like, but then what if they ask you? You can't lie. And then the devil over here is like, yeah, but you can avoid the question. So anyway, make a long story short, I made myself do it, and I meal prepped, you know, some supper stuff. I meal prepped lunches, and then I also planned, because we have a cafe coffee shop that is a newer venture of mine, a baby business, and I was able to plan all that ahead of time as well. So I got it all done, and I was happy that it did get done. You know, I was super excited about that. But you know, whenever I was trying to negotiate my way out of it, I did not want to do it, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you said you dropped so many gems right now, like from I'll pick up with the meal prep thing, because, you know, for me, like I've been trying to like get a schedule that's like working with me. You know what I mean? And I'm like transitioning out of that, you know, the life where you just show up because you know you're supposed to be there at a certain time. Like, oh my God, like I gave myself full control. It's funny because, you know, when you're working the 9 to 5 and you're, you know, you have some type of system going, and when you abruptly stop that, it could be a challenge. Like, you know, it could be a challenge. And that's what I'm realizing now. Like, oh my God, like this is not as easy as I thought it was. Still grateful for it. I don't regret it at all. Like, I wouldn't even change the way it did. It just, I'm cool with it. But it's kind of like, you know, now that I have so much time as far as to create the life that I want, now it's literally, you're starting to think differently. You're thinking differently. So I didn't have to think this way in the past, because I knew what time I had work. I knew what days I had work. It was given to me. You know what I mean? In a sense. But now I'm creating it. So when it came down to the meal prep, I'm just like, oh my God, like this is going to take some time. You know what I mean? But I had to focus on, you know, that's why I was like, you know, totally congratulating you on going through that resistance, because you know deep down that by doing the meal prep, it saves time. It can be tough to like actually start it. But once that's like completed, you know, like life is going to be a little bit easier because you made a conscious decision to plan, you know. And that's what I had to think of. I was like, you know what, like I'm over here, like some days I'm just like, what am I going to eat today? It's like, that's a process. That's time. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, what am I going to eat? Okay, maybe I'll do this. Oh, wait, if I prepare ahead of time, not only am I saving time, but I'm going to eat healthier because I'm preparing it. I'm not depending on someone else or some place to make something where I have no idea what's in there. So time, health, and
money.
Yes, thank
cheaper.
You. Yeah, it is, because when I look at, okay, I prepared this meal or whatever, I have vegetables, I got rice, I got chicken, I got this. I'm like, I don't have to think about where my dinner is coming from, and I'm not spending every day. Every day adds up. Like we think, right? Because like I'll do, you know, these deliveries, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, we're gonna get ourselves a treat, you know? Yeah, ourselves a treat because you've been so good today. Like, so I go to get myself a treat. It's $3, but $3 times however many days I'm doing that. That could have contributed to the planning, you know. So it's a total realignment. But I think that's like kind of like business, right? You know, we're thinking like, I just want the business to like bring in like $60 million a year. Okay,
that'd be nice.
That'd be nice, right? Just bring in just straight profit, 60 million. But how are you gonna get there? How are you going to get there? It's the little tiny changes, that make such a huge difference. Not right now, maybe, but in the long run, it does.
It absolutely does. And I think that's why, as we started thinking about, okay, well, this group's been there, we've been planning on doing it. The easiest, I guess, starter challenge was the meals because we're all eating, right? No matter what you're
Right.
doing in your life, no matter if you own your own business, you've thought about it, you're an entrepreneur, you work for somebody else, you're a stay-at-home parent, whatever, you're still all eating. So that was a good, starting point. And I know, I mean, I used to teach meal prepping classes, and I've actually sold meal prep kits for a long time. So I
Oh,
mean,
nice.
I know that it works. I know honestly there was money in it whenever I sold them, but I know it
Mhm.
works because it makes life so much easier.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that I'm always great at doing it for myself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
told you, oh, no, 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 that's the truth. And it happens like that a lot all the time because, well, I'd say about half the time, because I know the feeling I'm going to get. I know it's there. I know I'm going to feel so much more relieved all week long. I'm not going to have to think about it. I know all those things, but I'm at that moment, I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. I don't want to do it. But I know if I go ahead and push over just for that moment, just push through that exhaustion for that moment, because I
Mhm.
know I talk a lot about going ahead and listening to your body and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's times if you're beyond exhausted, I do want to throw that out there. There's times and that it's okay to say nope, I can't do this today because
Yeah.
physically I just
Right.
can't. That's okay. But we're not talking about that. We're talking
Right.
about just the normal. I just don't want to. I ain't feeling it right now. And I think if you push over that hump, you're going to be so thankful that you did. And I think that was a good, tangible, starting point to kind of get the accountability challenge side of our
Yeah.
group up and running, just because, you know, everybody is going to be able to see a reward from that. And,
Yeah.
we may end up doing some where I throw some recipes in there because I've got an entire book of recipes from where I used to do it on a regular basis for other people. And so I may throw some in there for people to make if they want to, but everybody's taste is different. Everybody's,
Right.
nutritional needs are different. And I definitely don't want to make this exactly like the wellness version was before, kind of like a hybrid, I guess. But, that being said, I do think it'd be good to throw a few recipes in there just for people that are like, meal prepping, I've never done that. Where would I start?
Yeah.
Type of thing. But
I
it's
think
really not that hard.
that's a great blog right there. Meal prepping. Where do I start?
It is. I mean, well, it's if you've never done it before, it seems overwhelming. That's like a lot of things. It seems so overwhelming. It
Yeah.
seems like it's just, well, you think about it, it's like I have to make, well, okay, let me rewind. Think about just going ahead and like I have to make supper tonight. What am I gonna make for supper? And you get
Mhm.
that like, well, times that by like, what am I gonna make for supper for all week? What am I gonna make for lunch for all week? It sounds overwhelming, but really, if you kind of plan it out, it's not, because then you're only thinking about it one time for the whole week, and the rest of the time you don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about it because you've already planned it, you've pre-prepped it. Some things I make ahead of time, and some things it just doesn't taste the same, so I just pre-prep everything where it's ready to throw to stir fry or whatever it is. You know, but you don't have to think about it except for that one time a week, and you'll
Yeah.
figure out that you love that. It's almost like that high throughout the week that I know what I'm eating all week. I've got this all planned out. And it almost gives you like another one up on the week.
Yes.
Starts you, you're off with a pep in your step. You're like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. It's, I don't know. It's the same thing like if you get your workout in or whatever else you're checking off your box. It's that snowball effect of, yeah, I got that done. Check it off the box.
And that's it. And itself, like the checking off the boxes, it's such a good feeling. Like, you know what the funny thing was when I finished, I made two different types of chicken. Like I made one on the stove, used the air fryer for one, and just the fact that like when I was done with it, was I tired? Yeah, because I was like on my feet and making sure it was done. It took some time. It did, but I reaped the rewards like the days after. Days after, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, I know what I'm eating. And I was like, okay, I'm like, it's just you start to work with yourself and you're like, oh, okay, this is not actually so bad. But then, for me, what I did with the meal prep thing, like I had to focus on my staples. Like, I think that's what everybody should do. Like focus on your staples and then add in. Because if like me, like with my upbringing, rice. I love rice. Like rice every day would be just like, I'll just eat rice. You know what I mean?
Rice.
Love rice. So what am I going to add to that rice? Can I do salmon? That's a nice option. Can I do you know, and you build it for you. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you can go on Pinterest too. Pinterest is a great place to get recipes. They actually have, that's the thing, because you do have to be aware of what's working with your body, because some people be like, oh, I see this person eats this every day, I'm gonna do it too, and then you feel sick. You know what I mean? So it's about working with yourself. But yeah, just start out with the basics and kind of grow it from there. It's adding on, you know.
Absolutely. And yeah, you definitely do have to figure out what's working for your body. And, that's obviously that's something from a wellness side that I always look at if I'm talking to people from that end. But I think the easiest thing is if you're not sure what works for your body, just listen to your body. Your body will tell you
Mhm.
if it's working.
Mhm.
Your eating should give you energy. It shouldn't make you feel like sluggish and bloated. And I think a lot of these side effects of eating we consider normal. People don't realize it's not
Oh
normal.
man,
You shouldn't
so
get
crazy.
heartburn after you eat. You shouldn't get,
Mhm.
bloating after you eat. Those things should not be happening. If they are, that's your body's way of saying this is not right for me, or
Right.
it's your body saying that this doesn't mix with whatever else you put it with for your body. Your body's
Yeah.
not digesting well. So I
Right.
mean that's something that we can, if we end up wanting to kind of go down the road of talking about it from a wellness thing. Oh, I don't mind to do that. I'm
Yeah,
just
I
not
think we
sure
should plan
what
that out. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure what people in the group are going to most need. I do know that inspiring people to start down the meal prep journey can do nothing but make their life better. So I definitely wanted to start, with that. And then I also wanted to do some type of, I think almost every episode we talk about doing it afraid. So I
What?
do want to do about doing it afraid, just doing it afraid.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
You're like, what? What am I doing afraid?
What are we talking about?
Well, I think that's what it is. I think it goes right back to, again, it could be business wise, like, hey, I've got this great business idea, but what if nobody likes it? Or it could be, hey, I really want to get in better shape, but I'm afraid to join the gym. Or it could
Mhm.
be, hey, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I thought about getting a babysitter so I could do something for myself, but I'm afraid, whatever. That I feel like that do it afraid statement can be used in many different applications. And
Mhm.
I would love to do some type of a challenge where they can kind of customize it for what works for them. Why are you laughing at me?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing about a scenario that came up in my
Wow.
head that
I
I
was like, am
should
I
do
preaching
afraid.
again? Okay. Go
No, no,
ahead.
no. It's not. It's not you.
Okay. Go ahead. So what was it? Do you want to share with us or you want to keep it
Nope.
on the no? Okay.
Because you're gonna be like, "That's it, Stace. You're gonna
Now
do
you
it."
have to do it. No.
Yeah.
So no, I think that would be a good thing to do because there's even stuff that I have that and I'm one of these people that preach everybody, do it afraid, but we all have those things. It's like, but not that. But I don't want to do that. Don't look over here. I don't want to do that. Afraid. We all have those things,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think that it would be a good challenge to have. Also, because it'll force me to have to go ahead and do some of the things that I know I should go ahead and do, but I don't.
Oh.
I was talking to you about that one thing. It wasn't necessarily a super dude afraid, but it was a procrastination to a fault thing where it's like I had literally had paperwork setting for like
Oh yeah.
almost 3 months, sitting there with a post-it note on it saying, you need to call and
Yeah.
do this. I didn't want to do it because it had to do with like taxes and I had closed down this and started this and they had messed something up. And all I had to do was call and say, hey, what do I need to do? This was supposed to be closed. I shouldn't know anything, blah, blah, blah. And I procrastinated on it because I had already like told myself, some of them are true. So I'm not great at numbers and taxes and accounting and
Mhm.
bookwork. That is not my jam. I don't want it to be my jam. I've never wanted it to be my jam. It's not like that was my dream and I just didn't make it. No, I don't want to do it. I have no interest. I'm so glad I have a bookkeeper accountant, but I digress. But anyway, I needed to call this. The accountant's like, you need to do this. That you have to call. I can't do this. Like, you got to call. I'm like, okay. It is sat there. I had 90 days to do it. Well, the 30th of this month would have been like, that's 90 days. You're done. You
Mhm.
should have done it by
Mhm.
now. So I called. It was the 27th, and I called. I was like, because I literally had negotiated myself. I was like, well, that'll give me a few days. That if
Yeah.
they need something, I have time to get it and fax it to them, whatever. It took me 15 minutes. It sat there for almost 3 months
Crazy.
with a freaking post-it note. All I had to do was call. It wasn't even that big of a deal. It was
Yeah.
not like anything horrible, but I had convinced myself to the point that I was so bad at it that I didn't even want to call the number to say 3 sentences to them for them to go, oh, we're sorry about that, type of thing. And it was easy, done. I was able to check it off my box. And that got me thinking. I have a lot of things like that it's like, it's not these big hurdles that I'm afraid of jumping most of the time. I take those as a challenge. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'm like, yeah, I got this.
I can do
I can do
this.
that. That stuff is not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is those little tiny things that I don't see a big reward in. Like, it's not like something I want to do. Those are the things that I struggle with because I don't want to do them.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely been there where it's like, I had to actually coach myself on that. Like, whether it's sending an email or setting something up or whatever, it's like, Stacey, realistically, what, 15 minutes at most? You can't just do this. Like, so
Yep.
I've been trying to practice, and it's a process. I will tell you that it is a process because, it's something that I had to realize. So personally, it's like I had to realize I was developing or contributing to my own level of anxiety. I think that's one of the hardest things when you start to realize it's like, oh, it's me. It's been me this entire time. Oh my God. It's like, oh, okay, but it's not to like beat myself up about it. It's to be like, okay, what is it that you're doing? Oh, I'm delaying all these tasks. And when I delay one task, I delay two, and it continues. But I said, even if I do delay, because that's just like what I do, I procrastinate. What if I just do one?
Yeah.
Just do one. And then when I did one, I'm like, that was easy. And I did two. That was easy too. Three? All right, we pushing it. Okay.
Yeah, we pushing it. Yeah. Well, see, but you know that about yourself. And I was thinking about this, and I shared this with you the other day too, that I think what I'm going to do is make it a rule. So I have my certain things I schedule in because I know myself, and I have to have it in my calendar. Or I do too. I'll be like, I'll do that later. And the later means never. So I am going to start putting in my calendar to do, like, I have that top basket is where I put the stuff that I told you also that I needed to put a label on it that says it's laying here where it goes to die, because that's where I put the stuff that I'm going to do later. But really, I also know that means whatever I have 1 second left before I have to have it done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my calendar that I have to get one thing out of that and do it. Now, if there's nothing in there, great, whatever. I get to do whatever else during that time, but I'm going to put it in there. And I have already, since I told you that the other day, I've negotiated myself. I'm like, well, do I really need to put one in all the time now? I mean, is that really, what if somebody needs to schedule a call during that time? And I'm like, Maria, it's a 15-minute slot. They can wait 15 more minutes, But it's funny how we try to negotiate with ourselves, because who better to negotiate? Because we know the things that we need to say to negotiate with ourselves. It's like, yeah, you're right, Maria. Wow, you're so smart. How would you know that? Because I'm negotiating with myself. That's how.
Yeah. It's like, do I? Nah. Yes, you do. It's kind of like, that's why I'm so grateful to, have met you and others, because now it's like, oh my goodness. Because I had to realize, like, with myself, like, yes, that's something I do, the procrastination thing. But then I was like, okay, you got to schedule meetings with yourself. Like, whether it's a personal meeting, business meeting, whatever it is, you got to check in,
And time off, schedule time off.
And it's so many things, because I realized that, because everybody's going to realize things about themselves. I think that's the key. You got to sit with yourself to know yourself, because the more you know yourself, you know how to build things to work with you, not necessarily against. So I was just like, oh my God, like, what I love is, how we were looking at the calendar the other day. I was like, wait a minute, Google Calendar shows like working hours now, and it shows insights. So I was just like, wait a minute, we don't even realize how we use our time. Sometimes we don't even realize it. So I was just like, wait a minute. I was like, I got a lot. Like, I was like, oh my God. When you take that reflection, you're like, oh, wait a minute. We gotta fix this. We gotta fix it. So I actually took it upon myself. So I got 2 things done. Because I did have it on my to-do list to redo my calendar, So not only did I meal prep, see, that's the thing. You got to start with one. You start with one. So I meal prepped and I redid my schedule. So I was like, okay, that's two. And I even got the third thing because I had to set business hours for myself. I had to set hours for when I'm going to focus on my business.
Yeah.
Because I had to realize my behavior. I was doing what I was doing last year, which is putting all my eggs in this basket. But like, what are we doing over here? We're just going to let this.
Absolutely.
We're just going to stare at it. Like, what are we doing?
So do you use the same calendar or do you use separate calendar? What's your?
I literally just started to use two.
Yeah, I use more than one too. I was just curious what your method. I don't think there's a right or a wrong on that. I think it's again whatever works for you.
I realized that I had to do that, and I have to say I was inspired by your calendar because I was just like busy. I was like,
what does busy mean?
Yeah, I was like, what is that? And I was like, oh, I was like, how do you do? I was like, you know what? Because I was looking at you know what it was? I was looking at my calendar, and everything was in one. And it just looked like this long list of craziness. And I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, work here, personal here.
Yeah.
And I realized the benefit of that,
There is. And I think that there's, I mean, you don't have to put every single thing in there. I don't put every single thing in there.
Right.
Because then it's overwhelming too. Because then it's like, it takes out the spontaneity,
Brush
right?
your teeth.
Yeah. I mean, I automatically know to do that, but there are specific things. Like I have a wellness calendar that I use. I used to have it on my other calendar, but I actually found that was more cluttered than I wanted on my business calendar. It's almost like I have to have like files in my brain. So I took it off there and I made a specific just wellness calendar too. And I put in my wellness goals in there too. And I started putting the meal prep in there. And I have it to where, my calendars are connected on the back end where it'll tell me if I've already got something scheduled, but it doesn't necessarily show on all the calendars. So, that for me, that's what works. But you have to figure out what works for you. And, whether it's like I used to put my yoga on every single day when I was trying to make that a daily habit because I did yoga, but it was a habit that I had to form to do it every single day because, well, I know it's better for me every single day. It helps. I've got lots of old injuries and it keeps me flexible and mobile with my injuries, and plus it makes me feel better. So I don't have to put that in anymore. I just automatically, it's my routine. It's in my routine. It's become a habit to the point, just like brushing my teeth or bathing,
right?
That I don't have to remind myself. But at the beginning, I did. I had to put it in there because it wasn't quite a habit at that point yet. And I think that's when you're looking at your calendar, that's what you got to figure out. Like, there's going to be a certain level of negotiating you have to do with yourself on things. And then after a while, some things are just going to become habit. And when you don't have to schedule anymore, fine, don't schedule it. But until then, make an appointment with yourself.
110%. That's what I did with, I realized that I workaholic all day long. That's just, that's part of my upbringing. That's like my nature, being a workaholic. Just work. But then I realized that there's issues with that, obviously. You know what I mean? You're more susceptible to burnout. You're not going to be thinking as clearly. So when you think you're working, you're actually possibly avoiding. Like, there's a whole bunch of craziness in there. So I realized I was like, I have to, for me, add in time for meditation and prayer. Like, I actually have to, because I think what the calendar does, it's like a reminder, like a mental reminder. Like, I see it when I'm looking at the calendar. I'm like, oh, like, you got to spend some time with you. Like, first thing in the morning, like, get that done. And do I meet it all the time? No. And I think that's where the spontaneity comes in, because sometimes there may be something that takes that place, but at least, like, you have something to go back to, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm starting to like realize now as I venture into this chapter of me. Like, it's just like, okay, take the time for you and you build upon it, and you could be adaptable. It doesn't mean that you have to stick to the schedule. It's like, I missed it. I can't.
Yeah. You don't want it to be another weapon or another something that you detest doing. You want to make it and craft it in such a way that it's making your life better. And I think that's the goal. And I think, if you're not a part of the Spontaneity group, I encourage you to look it up. And I don't know, Stacey, if you could put the link to it in there or not. I can't reach my keyboard very easily on this one. But
I can't reach it.
I can't reach it in the studio.
It's on the third shelf.
But anyway, if you're not a member of the group, just you can click to join it, because we're going to be doing some meal prepping in there and some other different challenges, because honestly, it's just a laid back group for accountability, for chatting, for supporting each other. If you're going through something, you want a group of like-minded people to be able to support you during that time. It's honestly, I want it to be a group that I needed. And then I say that about a lot of things. I try to, the things that I want to spend my time on now and that I want to do now is the things that inspire me and inspire others, and is something that I would have needed and I still need now. Let's be honest. I told you that I still negotiate with myself on a regular basis. So, it's something that I think will be great for all of us, and we would love to have you over there. Stacey Price, thank you so much for always being amazing. Even though you ended our broadcast earlier, I still love you.
I like that it came in as I wasn't murdered. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
What?
I just decided to put that. So, because I said if I go missing, then you were the culprit. Then all of a sudden it was click.
Yeah, the one eye was like.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, they were like, oh, she's a goner. So I wanted to go ahead and disclaimer that you didn't murder me. I'm still alive and kicking. So we'll be back next week at 11 a.m. Eastern for another episode of Spontaneity. And in the meantime, like I said, go join the group, and also go check out the Business Acceleration Playbook episode that we launched yesterday for some great info on some resources for your small business. And until next week, bye.
Adios.